Okay, welcome to the AURP International Conference. I'm pleased to present a panel discussing 5G, overcoming barriers to its adoption. And we have a great set of panelists. Our first panelist will be Chris Pearson, President of 5G Americas. Then we're going to be followed by Kevin Patterson, Director of Information Technology at Research Triangle Park. Research Triangle Park was one of the founding members of AURP. And then we'll be followed by Carver Chu, who's with MD5G Partnerships, an advocacy group in the state of Maryland. And we'll learn what all three of these individuals are doing in terms of helping implement 5G. So 5G, I suspect some of you know about 5G from watching football on Sundays and seeing advertisements for 5G networks. Some of you, like Chris and Kevin and Carver, are much more intimately involved with the technology, its promise, and the barriers that exist in terms of getting it implemented in your parks, in your states, in your counties. I noticed JBG Smith, they're the developers of Amazon HQ2 in Northern Virginia. They just last month paid $25.3 million for a new class of wireless 5G spectrum at the new National Landing Park, which is where Amazon HQ2 will be built. And so that gives you some indication that a developer is spending $25 million for a robust wireless network. So those of you who are building or operating research parks or innovation districts may say, well, what do I need to know about 5G? And how can I make sure my jurisdiction is helping to implement it? And hopefully we'll have time for questions like what's going to come after 5G, although 5G is just barely started. So our first panelist is Chris Pearson, President of 5G Americas, and I'm going to turn it over to Chris.
Great. Thanks for that overview and that introduction to the importance and also what the challenges could be for 5G as we go forward. So first, let's go to the next slide. To give you an idea who 5G Americas is, in case you don't know us, we are an industry association really focused on progressing mobile communications in North, Central, and Latin America. And that would be really LTE, 5G, and even beyond 5G. And we are have lots of operators as well as vendors that work together as partners to really progress mobile communications. We'll go to the next slide. If you don't know the type of work we do, is that we are pretty much world-renowned as far as our technical facilitation and coordination. That would be our white paper recommendations for the industry and how do we progress communications in North, Central, and South America. We also do a lot of regulatory policy work regarding regulations and how do we move forward with our technology of mobile communications in the United States, Canada, other Latin America countries. And finally, we do a lot of educational outreach to the industry media, industry analysts, and really all the key growing wireless stakeholders when it comes to the 5G technology. Next slide. So people talk a lot about things like you see commercials for 5G and what's going on and how do I get more data and all those types of things. And there is a case made that 5G does need or was developed or is developed to basically handle this staggering growth that we see in data communications with our mobile devices. In fact, I know with myself, if I leave the house, I would rather have my phone than my wallet. I can tell you my kids who are, I got 17-year-old twins. It is like, they live with their phone. That is, obviously positive and negatives as a parent, but we have this staggering data growth. And there's so much to the flexibility and architecture of 5G that will help address that data growth as just one of the many areas that 5G is looking to address. Next slide. But it's really more than that. The importance of 5G is not about your smartphone. it's not about increasing just your data. It is about entering new areas of ultimate connectivity. And this ultimate connectivity is going to go into many vertical markets. And that's how, if you think about how 3GPP, which is who does the standards work for 4G, 5G, and beyond, it was architected so that we could address various vertical and industrial markets. So when somebody sees a commercial about 5G and thinks about that smartphone, which is a very important market to all of us that are wireless key stakeholders, it's just one piece of it. I mean, we are really in the beginning stages of addressing multiple types of services and applications that we've never done before. Next slide. In fact, if you start to think about the speeds that we're going to be looking at as far as 5G, they are quite extensive and quite a lot of improvements over the previous few generations of technologies, 3G and 4G. But again, the speeds is not the important piece, even though I provide this slide just as a background. But the speed of 5G and what's called lower latency and some of the capabilities that are architected into it really are about addressing new markets. So that company that is just starting out somewhere where they used to think about mobile communications and having all these limitations to how much speed or what's called latency or other areas, that starts to move in a whole new direction. And so we start to have more limitless bounds of what we want to do in, as far as applications and services when you don't have those limits. Next slide, please. So where are we as a, we just started, recently with 5G deployments. Well, we are the fastest growing mobile communications technology in history as far as the number of subscribers at this point in time after first launching. And if you look at worldwide, we are at this time at 129 commercial 5G networks that have been deployed. And so the combination of subscriber uptake as well as the deployments really shows that how much potential that 5G has in the marketplace to address these new use cases, as well as again, the smartphone market and others. And what's really appealing about this is that we are just at the very kind of tip of the iceberg. I mean, if this is, I know we're in the World Series of baseball playoffs that is going on or just concluded, and if you look at a baseball analogy, we're really probably in the first or second inning of the 5G baseball game. So there's a lot to look forward to. Next slide, please. And globally, if you look at the connections, we will be reaching by 2025, 3 billion connections. In 2023, this slide doesn't show it, I think because of a typo, but we will be at 1 billion connections. 1 billion connections in 2023. And that at the same time, even though we hit 1 billion globally, we expect the North American market by the end of 2023 to be about 250 million subscribers. So when you start to think about the forecasts for 5G, they're all very promising and very bullish about the future of 5G connectivity. Next slide, please. But so what are some of the developments, though, in 5G, some of the challenges, some of the areas that we're making progress on? All these kind of rolled into one. Well, obviously, the elephant in the room is the pandemic. And with COVID-19, a big shout out to everybody that's dealing with this, from the frontline employees to everybody. And what we've done as a network, we've been performing quite outstanding when it comes to the network technology. But we also look at the bigger picture. Okay, what is really going on with the 5G deployments or developments in 2020? Some of the key areas are continuing to make progress. So one area that you need to meet this challenge of 5G is standards progress. Well, 3GPP, we have had delays because of COVID-19, but we are making significant progress regarding what's called releases of the technology standards. Spectrum, which I'm going to talk about a little bit before. One of the key pillars for 5G technology to reach its promise is the ability to have more spectrum and different types of spectrum available for the marketplace. And then there's densification. another key pillar, one of the foundations of meeting the promise of 5G will be densification. And so we'll be talking about that. So next slide, please. So one of the challenges and really the opportunity for 5G is the fact that we need in the United States, as well as anywhere that you're deploying 5G, all types of spectrum available for 5G. And that would be more licensed low band, more licensed mid band, and more licensed high band, which would be millimeter wave. And if you look at in the United States very specifically, we've been a leader in the millimeter wave, which is the high band marketplace. But 5G Americas has been focused with many in the industry on trying to make sure that we allocate in the United States more of the mid-band spectrum. So even just recently, the Department of Defense put out a request for information about spectrum sharing and other opportunities with the mid-band spectrum, and 5G Americas has responded to that. We've been working with the FCC and NTIA in the United States regarding possibilities for mid-band spectrum, which would be a big piece of what's going on around the world. And we are making progress. If you look at recently, we had what's called shared spectrum at 3550 to 3700 called CBRS spectrum. And so that is again, a step in the right direction. We also have the FCC moving toward what's called the C-band satellite auction, which is in the mid-band. And then they just most recently have identified, the FCC has 3.45 to 355 for, again, commercial uses. So we, in the United States, it's a challenge, but we absolutely are working and making progress on that challenge of having more types of spectrum, not just millimeter wave, not just mid-band, but not just low band, but all types of spectrum available. And mid-band has been a focus for 5G Americas recently, and we are happy to see the US government, it is also one of their focuses recently. Next slide, please. The other challenge that we see in 5G in the United States and many parts of the Americas region and even the rest of the world is network density opportunity. So for us to have network density, we need to have more cell sites. So when we start to think about a cell site, you have various sizes of cell sites. It can be a macro cell or a small cell. But overall, for 5G to meet its potential and promise, we need more cell sites. And to do that, we need streamlined and fair and transparent processes. So we have seen progress in the United States from the federal government at the FCC level. And also we have over 21 states throughout the United States have state legislatures that have put forth rules for their municipalities to follow, which will streamline that process. Without network density, we will not have the promise of 5G that we all are striving for. Next slide, please. So overall, 5G Americas looks at the opportunity with 5G technology as huge. Most people start talking about 5G right now as a smartphone, but this is not what 5G is going to be about. Smartphone technology and what you do with it will be part of that story. As we move forward with the standards, as we move forward with network density, as we move forward with more spectrum capability, and as we move forward with all the technology enablers that are associated with 5G, we will be actually probably make bigger strides in the technology world than even most people think. Thank you. I appreciate being on this panel, and I look forward to the questions later today. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Patterson. I'm the Director of IT Information Technology at the Research Triangle Park. As mentioned before, it's one of the largest parks in the country, and it is also one of the oldest parks in the country. This presentation, I'll talk a little bit about the Research Triangle Park and its kind of density right now, and kind of where we see everything going here in the next few years. We have a few large projects that we really are excited about and we really want you to know a little bit more about. So I will start off with a little history on the Research Triangle Park. So the Research Triangle Park was founded in 1959. It is about 7,000 acres, and currently we have close to 55, probably 60,000 employees that frequent the park. We have over 300 companies within the park that make up the infrastructure of this park, and there's about 20 million square feet of lab and office space in the park. This area was really founded back in 1959 around RTI and IBM. And from there, we've seen tons of growth and biopharma and other industries that have come through the Research Triangle Park and developed. We're really excited about some of the future development that we see. Here you can see some of our leadership. We actually were founded by NC State, the University of North Carolina, and Duke. And we've recently brought on North Carolina Central University as some of those universities that really help the Research Triangle Park thrive in this area. So below you can see some of our key contributors in the park. These companies really make up the infrastructure and the atmosphere of what the park is and how the park runs and what technologies come out of the park. On this slide, you'll see RTP's current infrastructure that we've built out just in the last 5 years. We built a campus from the old IBM campus called the Frontier, where we really made that a collaboration hub. We really wanted to help startup businesses and small entrepreneurs and give them a place where they could really come together, meet, and develop their ideas and build on those ideas, and also pitch to larger companies. On the right side of my screen, you see Hub RTP. This is a future development. It's a mixed-use development that we're really excited about. It will have office, retail, and residential. And we are really excited about this because we see this as really the key factor to how we'll get 5G into the Research Triangle Park itself, but also bridge that gap that we've heard a lot of our companies say they have. It's very hard to have the type of technology you need if you don't have the infrastructure built in place. And we feel like Hub will be that spot where we can really build that infrastructure out and not only help the Research Triangle Park, but also help surrounding communities outside of the Research Triangle Park. So here you see a few renderings of what we have going on now. Boxyard is going to be a facility that we actually build here, and it should open up in 2021. We're really excited about that because it will bring food and culture to the park that the park hasn't had. The Frontier has started that, and we're really excited to see its continued growth. We have about 100 small companies that live within the Frontier, but Hub will bring a different atmosphere. We're really looking at that as the work-live-play atmosphere that everybody talks about. And it also will be an innovation hub that we believe that we'll be able to bring more companies and also bring universities to where they can share ideas and they can build, especially around 5G. We believe 5G is going to be a technology that not only expands what we can do on a day-to-day basis, but also the communications we can have with our employees, with our constituents in other areas, in other states. So we really look forward to this being a key contribution to not only North Carolina's atmosphere, but around the world. So here are a few things that we see as some of the things that we've used to respond to COVID-19. We've really looked at digital equity because COVID-19 has ravaged a lot of people's industries. School has been ravaged. We did some things around that so we could actually help accelerate that gap. We want to close that gap as fast as we can. So we want our youth to be able to have the technologies they need and also have the speed and adequacy they need to actually function in this type of environment that COVID-19 has brought upon us. Discovery, we are one of the biggest areas of discovery as we continue to look at biopharma, we look at cybersecurity, and we look at other aspects that the park really builds out now. And we've really tried to help those companies within the park figure out how they can actually do that work outside of the park, not just being stuck to a desk or being stuck to your one lab facility. How can we actually expand that outside of those lab facilities and still keep you connected to your organization and also connected to the different pieces of research that you're doing at that time? So we're really excited about helping with the discovery that we see companies doing now. And security, as the last piece, is a major infrastructure piece that we see for not just 5G, but for every company that's going to be using 5G. As we continue to add more devices, as Chris mentioned, by 2025, we're looking at about 3 million devices being connected. Well, how many of those things will actually be IoT devices, Internet of Things? Those are things that we're really looking at. How can we start to incorporate that in what our companies are doing and what we do as the foundation? So those are some of the things that we're really looking at right now. COVID-19 has really been hard for a lot of companies. So one of the things that we see is the speed that you get in the office may not be the speed you have at home. So we want to kind of bridge that gap as well. And we see that as something that state and local government will help us do. And also, as we've heard earlier, small cells will be a really big part of that development. We really want to try to expand that development and try to accelerate that growth as much as we can here in the park. So I really want to thank you all for allowing me to speak for a few minutes about COVID-19, the Research Triangle Park, and some of the things we're doing to mitigate what COVID-19 has done currently in this atmosphere.
Hi, Brian, and good afternoon to everyone tuning in. I'm Carver Chu, Director of Government Affairs for Crown Castle, and it's a pleasure to be here on behalf of the Maryland 5G Partnership. For those of you who may not be familiar with Crown Castle, we are the nation's largest provider of shared communications infrastructure. We own, operate, and maintain a portfolio of towers, small cells, and fiber that all work together to connect communities and ensure access to essential data and services. Crown Castle works with wireless carriers, governments, businesses, and even university systems to provide communities with the connectivity required to unlock innovation. In communities across the country, our team of over 5,000 employees is working diligently to expand our network and to ensure that it can handle today's data demands and prepare cities and towns for the next generation of wireless networks known as 5G. Crown Castle is pleased to be a founding member of the MD5G Partnership. MD5G is a statewide coalition of individuals, businesses, community leaders, and nonprofits that are united in their commitment to tap into the promise of 5G, to build connected communities, and to prepare for future innovative technologies across a range of sectors, including healthcare, education, and manufacturing, just to name a few. I think we can all agree that the way we interact and operate has become more and more reliant on wireless networks. The country's experience since the outbreak of the coronavirus has only served to reinforce this fact. We believe that the importance of this mission is now more critical than ever. So we launched MD5G in June, and in the first 4 months, we are now more than 20 members strong and counting. We represent leading organizations in business, healthcare, transportation, and tech, including AURP. We have come together because we are all impacted by 5G, though it may be in different ways. Much like the railroads, highways, and airports generations ago, communications infrastructure is what communities and businesses need to grow and thrive, to facilitate work and learning, and perhaps even more evident today, to simply ensure that we can stay connected with loved ones. So about 5G. Every day, we produce and transmit enormous amounts of data. It's expected that the average consumer will use almost 22 gigabytes of mobile data per month by 2022. Today, we depend on wireless networks not only for our smartphones and wearables, but also to work from home and to access educational and healthcare resources. As the demand for data increases and we continue to move toward 5G and the next generation of connectivity, more communications infrastructure is needed. Much like its 4G predecessor, 5G is made possible through a combination of deployment methods, including cell towers, in-building systems, rooftop antennas, and small cells that are underpinned by fiber optic cable transmitting data at the speed of light. Companies like Crown Castle and wireless carriers have traditionally installed equipment on cell towers, which are then able to receive and transmit cellular signals over large geographic areas. Rooftops are an option where towers may not be feasible. Whether mounted to the building facade or behind a rooftop parapet, antennas on the tops of buildings can provide a level of effectiveness comparable to a tower. And like their name implies, small cells are much smaller in size compared to cell towers. They're often attached to existing structures like utility poles or streetlights, and they're typically placed closer together in dense areas to help add capacity and relieve congestion on the network. In-building systems can provide reliable indoor coverage and serve to complement towers, rooftops, and small cells. The bottom line is this: to provide more comprehensive coverage and capacity across a range of environments, it takes a combination of these elements, or what we often refer to as an all-of-the-above approach. If we succeed in getting the infrastructure in place, we can expect to see transformation and innovation occur across all sectors of the economy and society, including education. Not only will 5G improve education, it will bring greater connectivity to students who rely on their mobile devices to access educational resources. Studies indicate that roughly 3 million children in the US do not have internet access at home. That means schools face significant obstacles trying to provide remote learning. With speeds up to 100 times faster and capacity for 100 times the number of connected devices, 5G will enable students who rely on a mobile connection to access educational resources with download speeds that are as good, if not better, than speeds from a standard home internet connection. 5G will also facilitate the use of new, state-of-the-art technologies, such as augmented reality and virtual reality, leading to a more immersive experience for students in all kinds of digital classroom formats and settings. And just as 4G unlocked the mobile or app economy, it's expected that 5G will unlock new innovations in healthcare, manufacturing, retail, and much more. Imagine smart communities where an ecosystem of sensors and connected devices in streets and on traffic signals can monitor traffic flow in real time and lead to shorter commute times and lower carbon emissions. Or having access to the best surgeons in the world, regardless of your location, and the capability to undergo remote surgery if needed. Or using non-invasive connected devices to monitor your health and maximize the benefits of preventative care, saving up to 75% on healthcare costs. Or being transported to work in a fully autonomous vehicle, which the US Department of Transportation predicts will eliminate 80% of accidents. Innovations like these that can and will improve our quality of life are being incubated and commercialized by world-class research institutions right here in the United States. Through ultra-low latency and hyper-fast communications, the true power of 5G can be realized and its impact experienced on a truly grand scale. There's no doubt that building out America's 5G network will have a meaningful impact on our cities and towns, both large and small. In Maryland, it is estimated that network build-out will generate more than 9,700 jobs and add $1.5 billion in GDP statewide. Nationwide, investment in 5G networks is expected to generate more than 3 million new jobs and add $500 billion in GDP. So 5G is not just about what lies ahead. Its economic impact is being felt even today. So what's next? At MD5G, we have two important tasks in front of us. The first is to make sure that stakeholders across all industries appreciate what 5G can mean for them and join us as champions for 5G. Sometimes when we talk about 5G, it seems too future focused. People have a hard time understanding why they should care. Working with the members of organizations like AURP can really help 5G come to life for those who don't yet know how impactful it will be. The second task is to partner with our federal, state, and local government leaders to prioritize next generation communications infrastructure. 30 states, including Delaware, Virginia, and West Virginia have enacted small cell legislation designed to streamline the permitting of small cells, which are critical for ubiquitous 5G. Maryland, by contrast, has yet to take such action, and as a result, risks falling behind. At MD5G, we will continue to work with our partner organizations to make 5G a priority, understanding that all communities stand to benefit from the transformative power of 5G and all that 5G will help enable. So thank you for your time. I look forward to joining my other panelists to take your questions.